out to sea without consulting.
We got the original OG dog whisperer, Cesar Millan.
On her daily routine.
She'll bring the horses out of the barn.
Yeah.
And the Rottweiler just loses his mind. He's watching her right now get the horse. I can see him right there. As soon as she gets...
See, that's bad already.
Rottweiler with a horse.
And, you know, obviously the horse's energy is high, too.
Yeah.
Stallion.
He's excited.
This is when he's the worst because it's breeding season. Because all the stallions are really amped up, and that gets him amped up.
Passion, get out of here, go on.
See,
And then this is the bulldog, and he's gonna feed off of that Rottweiler. He's watching him right now.
You got two big boys.
There you go.
Hey, get.
Oh, that's bad.
Obviously, we're not doing something right.
Yeah, Bastian's definitely excited, but not like aggressive, you know?
No.
This one, see, look, that's when you see the predator, the excitement. One stays in a playful state, the other one goes to a predator state, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, gosh, dude. Holy cow.
Hey.
That's dangerous. He's excited. That's right now.
All right, so we got up to this point. We got Cesar out at this ranch. Looks like they got a Rottweiler and a bulldog. They got these stallions, and the dog, from what I'm seeing, one of the dogs is getting amped up. The Rottweiler gets amped up, but the bulldog gets amped up. The bulldog now chases the stallions and grabs the tails. So my initial thoughts on this are, you know, why are we allowing the dogs to do this? The dog's only going to do what you allow it to do. So these dogs need structure. They need to know how to operate in this environment. They've got no problem putting the stallions on halters and walking them around. So why can't we have the dogs on leashes just to start? So we'll see what Cesar says here.
There you go.
So we got the dog. It comes up to Cesar, I guess, to investigate him. Tail is wagging more upward, so that would indicate more dominance and arousal. And Cesar just does a quick, you know, choke slam with the dog, right? Not slamming it down, but just a quick jab on the neck for his style of correction. And the dog departs from that. But, you know, I don't really see why this is necessary. We need to really just build good structure and foundation with this dog so the dog can respect
Touch the
us.
leg is something that dogs do to each other. It's a way to establish themselves within the pack. It's probably the first correction this dog ever had.
So he's saying that he's jabbing at the neck to establish himself in the pack. The problem that I have with that is this could have an adverse reaction. The dog could respond to that neck jab a little bit differently, less than ideal. It would be better to do time management, structure, build up that dog's understanding of how to operate, teach the dog how to operate in the environment. You know, corrections are good. We want to do corrections, but go through proper teaching of that before you just walk in and start neck jabbing the dog.
So what he did is he got confused and he ran away.
Yeah, so the dog now is running away, tail is lowered, so the neck jab definitely caught him off guard. But again, the dog's just running around, no understanding of how to operate.
Follow me.
So now it seems like Cesar's chasing the dog.
I want you to see when he told
Yeah, so he's chasing him. He's putting him into a cornered state, right? So the dog's running away, tail's lowered. Cesar's chasing the dog, basically going to get into fight or flight with the dog. The dog's trying to run away again. Cesar's got him like in this fenced-in area, and he's using spatial pressure to block where the dog's going. Not letting the dog basically flee.
That's follow through. This correction is not going to...
So the dog, you know, the dog ran away, tail's lowered. He runs off to this fenced-in area. Cesar blocks him from going anywhere else, basically cornering the dog. Dog goes into fight or flight, still trying to move around. Dog eventually gets up next to a wall and sits down. At least that's where we're at right now. You know, I don't know what happens as we go from here, but if this dog escalates, if it feels like it's cornered and decides to fight more, now Cesar's got a legit fight on his hands.
What we want is just to stay calm. What I saw is two dogs with no rules, boundaries, or limitations. And then when you add the tension and the owners, then you bring the whole explosion of aggression.
Knock it off.
Connie is not playing. He needs to release that excitement or tension, otherwise he's gonna bring down a horse.
So that was the end of that one. But, you know, again, it'd be better to teach that dog how to operate, structure, communication, definitely have corrections. I would prefer a remote collar if I'm having the dog off leash versus running up in there, doing a neck jab, chasing the dog around, cornering the dog. That could escalate the dog depending on the dog. So, you know, just two different ways to handle that. But definitely what the dog was doing, grabbing the horses, ripping their tail, definitely not good behavior. All right, now we got this courtyard. We've got a pit bull. You know, it runs from the owner up to the gate, barking at the gate, runs back to the owner. Now it's at the gate, barking.
What not to do, or what's right and what's wrong. She just goes right back to release it on time. She's charging, not necessarily like wanting to
We see the dog's tail is slightly upward wagging, so that would indicate dominance and
she stays by the fence.
arousal.
No, she's not.
She's not?
No, she's confused.
Okay.
See, Michelle is not saying yes or not.
Okay.
Right? And the guy over there is just standing there not doing anything. So nobody's giving direction.
Okay.
So the stranger is not saying, I'm going to move forward or I'm going to retrieve. It's not giving any feedback. And when Luna comes and jump on her, Michelle does this. She moves out of the way, so she gives the space. So that behavior is making Luna more powerful. The other guy on the other side is standing too strong. And then Luna said, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? We don't know you.
Yeah, so the thing here is this dog's running up to the gate, barking at the guy. The dog's probably used to people running away or being super scared at the gate, and the guy's just standing there, so that is going to confuse the dog. The dog is now going to go into conflict, doesn't know what to do because it's not getting its normal response in the situation.
And your energy is too strong, so I'm going to stay here because Michelle in the back feels this way. So then it's Luna's responsibility to guide the situation. That's what makes him dangerous.
So in this whole situation up to this point, we're still letting the dog practice the behavior that we don't want. So ideally, we're modifying that behavior, changing that behavior. Going to do that with structure, going to do that by building up a training progression. And then before you have the dog off leash again, having excellent off-leash communication with it.
Michelle joins her parents upstairs.
So now Cesar's coming down into the courtyard with this dog.
While Cesar begins the process of trying to get Luna under control.
So as Cesar's walking up to the dog, we see some conflict. We see the tail up, wagging. That's dominance and arousal. We also see the dog not fully committing to moving toward him. It's moving forward. It's moving backward. We're getting some deep growls. So the dog is stressed. And Cesar's just basically holding position to try and teach the dog that even though it's barking and all that, he's not going away. He's using this X pin to provide spatial pressure to the dog and limiting its boundaries. He's also using it to keep himself a little bit safe in this situation. Now the dog's running back and forth. It's going to both sides. It's going to the guy at the gate, and it's coming back to Cesar. We see the dog's eyes wide open. It's getting super stressed out in this situation, not used to any of this. Tail straight up, tail wagging, dog's going all over the place. We're seeing a lot of conflict, a lot of stress. Looks like he's trying to put a slip lead on the dog.
Being challenged by somebody?
Yeah.
See that gap?
She's giving you space.
She's very confused.
No.
With Luna cornered, Cesar begins the process of putting a leash on to control this dangerous dog. Cesar
All right, so it skipped a little bit there, but he's got the slip lead on the dog now to a certain degree.
Whose unchecked aggression
Looks like it's around its leg or something. And he's using a tennis racket to keep the dog from biting him. Now he's got another slip lead on the dog right around the neck.
And I'm making her.
And so now once he has that slip lead on, he can actually start communicating with the dog at a different level. We see the dog very stressed out with its eyes open and everything. So, you know, if I'm going to someone's house where they have a dog like this, I don't even want to stress the dog out to this level. All right. So I've got all this stress built up in the dog, all this conflict built up in the dog. I try not to get it stressed out to this level. I usually will ask the owner to put a slip lead or a leash on the dog before I even get there. If they have a harness on the dog, my preference is let's get a slip lead on the dog or something, on its neck that we can use to communicate with it in a little bit different way.
Because she will strike. Luna has no discipline.
So he's
All
saying
knows
that she
is,
will bite,
this
and you
is
can
my
see from her
space, and
behavior that she
everything
will bite
outside
if
is
she
a
can
threat.
get a good
But
bite
that's
in.
because no one has ever shown her any different. So I need to get her out of this environment where she thinks she runs everything.
Yeah, so now he's communicating with the dog with the slip lead. He's saying he needs to take the dog away, essentially for a board and train type thing. He's using the tennis racket to keep the dog from biting him.
Her eyes are kind of scary.
Yeah, like he's saying, her eyes are showing us that she is super stressed out, right?
Basic dog training, like sit down, stay, where words can actually control her brain.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Cesar.
If you
But also when we're sitting here watching this dog, every time we get to see it, its tail is now down, which means the underlying cause, most likely, of its reactivity is actually insecurity. So we saw the tail up and wagging at first when it's running around. We're seeing dominance and arousal. But if the dog's in its own territory, that's why we might see that. Whereas if we have that slip lead on the dog, we're changing up what it's used to. We take it away from its environment. We're probably going to see more signs of insecurity in the dog. And just like anything else, why get it into a stressed or highly conflicted state? Let's start off with basics. Let's get some relationship building going. Let's teach it obedience. Let's teach it how to perform, how to act. Let's get some off-leash control and communication in.
We'll take care of her.
Yeah, so he's taking the dog with him. He'll stay with him for however long to get his training in with it.
She needs this, and we need this. I'm very hopeful, and I'm really excited to see what Cesar's going to do with her.
Cesar needs to evaluate and address this aggression right away to make sure no person or animal gets hurt.
Does he always walk like that? Does he always look around, check around?
Yeah, when he crossed.
All right, so now we got another dog. He's got the owner on the leash, it looks like, or the owner's walking it on leash. See the tail down, see the ears back. We're already seeing some insecurity, some nervousness here.
I want to evaluate how Amigo relate to another dog.
Looks like this dog has dog problems, which is what they're trying to figure out. So as soon as the other dog comes out, the dog being evaluated is starting to show a lot of attention to the other dog, but we still see the tail down. We see it touching its owner. Seeing a lot of signs of insecurity here.
Very typical behavior of a greyhound. They're gonna go from 0 to 60 in no time.
Peter allows Amigos.
Okay, now the dog's starting to show reactivity and aggression. We see the tail start coming up. We see that highly reactive response. First of all, the owner, in this case, if I was Cesar, whoever's running this evaluation, they're letting this dog approach the dog that's being evaluated. I wouldn't even I'd say the owner, don't let your dog go over there. We don't want to fight. We don't want damage, right? We're just assessing the behavior. But we see that change in behavior as that dog, the dog that's coming in as the distraction, gets closer. So the dog hits the reactive dog's threshold where it's too close for the dog to not react. Now the dog's reacting, it's going crazy. So we initially see insecurity from the dog's behavior. Now we start to see that behavior change into more of a dominant behavior. So my guess is this is an insecure dog, had some kind of experience with other dogs that created its reactivity to other dogs, and its goal is to keep other dogs away from it. So it probably, was attacked by a dog in a dog park or on the street, which created this association to other dogs, which is why we have this problem. And we really need to rehabilitate that and change the dog's perspective of other dogs and how to perform around them.
It becomes a really lethal weapon.
He's going to attack it.
Oh, he's going to bite, that's for sure.
So Cesar's got the dog now.
I always pay
One thing I'm not seeing so far is I'm not seeing this dog redirect onto the owner or the handler. So that's a good thing, because that's always a risk whenever you're working with a dog like this, is redirection. Okay, so Cesar just poked the dog in the butt, and it did turn on him real quick and bark. But it wasn't committed to redirecting on him. And now Cesar's basically establishing boundaries. But again, my opinion is you don't need to go this route with the dog, because, the dog's reacting. You're all of a sudden poking it, jabbing it. Dog's starting to react at you. We see the dog's behavior go back to insecurity. So this method doesn't really help us resolve the underlying insecurity, it's just kind of addressing a one situation thing. Now, I know we're not seeing everything on the show. I'm sure that Caesar's doing other work and everything, but you know, ideally I wouldn't even do this situation with the dog. I'd remove it from the stimuli, the other dog, and I'd start working on its training progression. Relationship building, engagement building, obedience, how to respond to things, how to interpret the world around it. Once I get all that done, then I go into the distraction and scenario training like what we see here. All right, so this dog did end up responding to Cesar's jabs and laid down to submit for that specific situation. Once that situation's over, though, it'll act differently. Now we got another situation. We've got Cesar looks like he's in a yard. He's got another tennis racket with him to probably keep a dog from biting him. And we've got what seems to be like a German Shepherd that's very protective in this yard.
That I can do it, but I know I'm using a racket. But I'm still doing primal.
Cesar asks Trish to bring a chair and come back into the yard with Ovechkin, and to keep her eyes shut, no matter what.
I know this dog is territorial, but I want to see how he acts when his owner is present.
So he's walking in the backyard. He's got the dog charging him. We're seeing mixed signals from the dog. We're seeing the tail up and down. And we see the hackles up.
Her eyes so she can relax.
So probably the root cause here is insecurity again. But the dog's in its territory. It's guarding its territory. So that's why we see the behavior. The dog's not fully committed. When Cesar first got to the yard, it did charge him. Cesar threw something at the dog that threw off the dog, created a little bit of a superstitious association, which is what he's trying to do, which basically changes the dog's response. But the dog's running around. It's very conflicted.
I was so
Hackles
afraid.
are up. Tails up and down, tails wagging. We're seeing a lot of arousal.
Thinking this is it.
Caesar's got his tennis racket blocking him and the dog. This dog would definitely bite if that tennis racket wasn't there. And it's even trying to get a different angle on him. And it's biting the tennis racket. Holy cow. So, yeah, it's getting pretty serious here. So this thing's charging Cesar. Caesar's getting pushed back. Getting pushed back.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yep. So the dog is having a victory here over Cesar. Because Cesar's getting pushed back.
Not biting me.
Yep. Bit the tennis racket a couple times. That would definitely hurt if that dog got a hold of you. But again, you know, all these situations, I know that he's doing this for TV and everything, but I'm not a big fan of pushing the dog into these situations versus like, hey, let's just address it. Because if I take that dog into that conflicted state, that very stressed out state, number one, it's not helping me reach my end goal. It's practicing the behaviors. But also I could have an adverse association to me as the trainer, which could make it harder to resolve that as we start working with the dog. You know, as we progress here, we're seeing the tail come down, the dog hiding behind the chair. The root cause here is insecurity. So the dog is actually insecure. The dog is not knowing how to handle situations, and it's learned that the aggressive response gets it what it wants. It gets it comfortable. So why go through all this trouble to have a shield and block yourself from the dog and all that? What I do in these situations, like now we got the dog cornered, you know, trying to get a slip lead on it. What I do in these situations, hey, tell the owner before I even get there, put a slip lead on your dog, right? That way I can communicate with it. That way I can start to work with it without going through all the stressful situations and responses and potentially have a bite, which is, you know, obviously it's going to hurt, cause a little bit of damage, so we don't need to do all that. Plus the dog is practicing biting. That's not going to help us either. So now Cesar's got a slip lead on the dog. Looks like he's going to try and put a muzzle on it at the same time. He's got another dog with him. Yep, so we got the muzzle on the dog. He doesn't have it strapped yet, though. He's got one of his assistants putting the straps on. Got a slip lead on the dog. And so I think that's probably it for that specific situation. But again, no need to go through all that stress, through all that what's going on. We can just, you know, initially have a slip lead or a communication device on the dog, and then we can work with the dog without putting it into that highly conflicted, stressed out situation.
Look at that.
Caesar turns his
Going through our
attention to
basics
learning
with
about God's
everything,
more dangerous
relationship building,
boxer,
engagement, all
Shepherd.
that kind of stuff. So it looks like we have another
Shep
bulldog
lashes
type mix here that's highly reactive at dogs.
So when you have a bad situation, the best thing you can do is remove them, let them calm down a little bit, and then we can start all over.
Since Cesar had success
So it looks like these
earlier
people
using
took the dog
e-collar
out of their
to
car and
help
immediately
Mocha's
started
aggression,
reacting at the dogs that are around it.
he decides to
And
use
so
the same
Caesar's like, hey,
approach
let's put
with
it back
Chip.
in your car,
When
and
they
we'll bring
say
it out
shock
again.
collar, it doesn't mean body.
Looks like
It
he's putting a
means
remote collar on the dog.
Shock the brain, snap the brain out of it.
Okay.
We've used the e-collar before. We didn't get any results whatsoever.
All we would get back is just aggression.
Yeah, so Caesar's putting a remote collar on the dog. That sounds like the owners have used the remote collar before. They're saying it didn't work. They were getting more aggression with the remote collar. That means probably improper conditioning, or some conditioning needs to be redone. Again, I don't know everything that's going on here. We're just getting a glimpse of time. But I wouldn't be putting a remote collar on the dog. I wouldn't even be stressing out the dog. I'm going to go back to the basics, build up this dog's foundation, build up training before I even get to remote collar work. Then after remote collar work is when we'll run scenarios and distraction training.
We got you back here. Even if they attack, I got you.
Caesar holds a transmitter.
So it looks like they're going into this area. The owner
We
is.
got you back here.
They got dogs
That's
in the
how it should
area.
feel in the
Caesar's
neighborhood.
got the remote for the collar outside of the fenced-in area with the wife.
Carpet thingies right there.
Other dogs
the
are
leash.
hanging out.
Just walk that way. Look, I'm gonna press right, like when he pays attention, okay?
So okay, so we got the
Caesar
dog.
pressed the transmitter to
The dog
snap
did
Chip
react
out
at
of the
another
attack,
dog, and then Caesar
then follows
corrected it with the
through
remote
by bringing
collar
him
after.
to a calm state, just like he did earlier with Mocha.
Now Caesar's putting the dog into
Come
a
here.
downstay
Then
essentially
Caesar
to
brings
promote
back the dog
calmness.
Chip tried to fight,
This is the guy that want to go into a fight.
Yeah.
but this time Chip doesn't react.
So now he's avoiding him.
That's right. Even
So this is just a glimpse in time, but this is good scenario training if you've done all your preliminary foundational work and building everything up to this point.
work gave me the same positive
So you got to
results
teach a
in
dog
both.
how to respond in different
The correct
situations,
time to
how to
activate
act
the
in different
e-collar is the
situations.
key to
You know, you see a
transformation.
response that you don't like, you're going to work on that with operant conditioning, right? So essentially that's what he did, but we only saw a glimpse in time. So, you know, just some key takeaways from those moments and things you can think about when you're looking at dogs, when you're working with dogs, when you're trying to work with your own dog.